Good morning, church. It's Tuesday morning of Holy Week. Hope you have your coffee and your bran muffin. My grandma used to make the best bran muffins. This might be too much information for you. I nicknamed them when I was a little bit older. I just call them magic muffins. So don't know if you're having a magic muffin this morning, but I hope you're enjoying your coffee. I want to look at a text today, and I want to encourage you to read this as a family. It's long. It goes from Matthew 21, verse 23, through Matthew 26, verse 5. Whoa, that's a lot to read. But Jesus spent Tuesday teaching in the synagogue, almost the entire day. And on this Tuesday, this will be the last time that he is in the synagogue as a free man. And so he's doing a crazy amount of teaching. He goes through parables, which you're going to be reading through those. But I just want to read for you the very end of that series of verses that I have you reading. So I'm just going to read Matthew 26, verses 1 through 5. When Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said to his disciples, "You know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified." Let's stop there. That's going to be very important. What Jesus has just shared with his disciples is extremely important. He says, you know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified. Now look what happens next. Then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas. Let me stop there for a moment. Never name your child Caiaphas, okay? Bad guy, bad dude, know his name, never name a kid that. You can name your cat that. Oh, I shouldn't say that. And so anyway, let's go on. Then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas, and plotted together in order to arrest Jesus by stealth, illegal, and kill him, clearly illegal. But they said, this is the high priest and the Pharisees, not during the feast, lest there be an uproar among the people. So let's wait until the feast is over for the crucifixion, when Jesus said, Passover is coming and I will be crucified. Now, for those of you who know the end of the story here in the resurrection, which person was right? Jesus was telling us that the sovereignty of God and the timing of God was going to be absolutely perfect. The Pharisees wanted Jesus crucified at the end of Passover, and Jesus said, I am the Passover lamb. It's a really interesting thing. The Pharisees wanted to get rid of Jesus because he was stirring up that Rome, and he was stirring up Jerusalem. And actually, if you've been reading through the text and the stories, his fame is still growing in Jerusalem. His obedience to what his father is telling him to do his popularity is growing, and his wisdom is absolutely unparalleled. And oddly enough, the Pharisees, they're trying to get rid of Jesus, who's this zealot, and they're doing everything they can in their power to eliminate this person that the Old Testament prophesies as Messiah. They missed it. Jesus is right in front of them. The Messiah is right in front of them. And they wouldn't even search it out. They wouldn't take the time to search it out. And Jesus tries to set them straight with a series of parables, a series of stories. And yet they persist to go down this road to their demise, and because of their wickedness. And so I want to encourage you in the story, as you're reading it, to see that God's timing is always perfect and God's timing is always right. But I also would encourage you, whether individually or as a family, to write down, maybe title each parable, and after you've titled each parable, write where you see Jesus in the parable. What do you see about the person of Jesus in each one of those parables? That's kind of the homework, besides reading that massive, long series of verses from chapter 21 to chapter 26. The last thing I want to encourage you with is this. Tomorrow's Wednesday, and in the whole scheme of Holy Week, it's a pretty quiet day. And so I would encourage you to maybe try this. Since Wednesday is such a quiet day, that maybe Wednesday here would be a quiet day for you, and that you would seriously consider what Jesus says is a pretty private matter. But I want to encourage you to do it. I want to encourage you to fast and pray on Wednesday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. In that moment when you're fasting, I would prefer myself to fast from food. Maybe you can't do that because of dietary reasons or things like that, but to find some things significant where you would maybe feel it if you were fasting from it. It might even be social media, whatever it is, that you would take Wednesday and you would fast from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and spend a considerable amount of time praying for this week, praying for the celebration of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, praying for our church, praying for the church, Big C Church as a whole, that God would be glorified in the days and weeks ahead, and that we would see many, many people come to know Jesus this Easter. Have a great morning.